Hello guys, it's me again, Galabi, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about the commonly confused English word pairs, not just by non-English speakers, but also for some native speakers. Okay, and at the end of the video, we have a short quiz just to test your understanding, so I hope you listen attentively. So without further ado, let's start. Our first word pair here is bring and take. So this is just very easy. It's just about here and there. So you bring something here and you take something there. So the locations of here and there are from the perspective of the speaker or the writer. So for example, your mother asks you to bring her the newspaper, so you take that to her room. So for the first part of the sentence, the speaker there is the mother. So your mother says, okay, bring me the newspaper, so you bring her the newspaper. And the second part of the sentence, I am the speaker, so I told you, hey, take that to her room, so it's away from me, take that to her. So that's why I use take for bring for the first part and take for the second part. So if I were the speaker of that, I would say, hey, you bring me the newspaper, or bring me a glass of water, something like that. Okay, so bring something here, take something there, not interchangeable in any way. All right, so let's move on to the next word pair. The next word pair is any more and anymore. They just really sound the same. If it's conversational, we don't really know any difference of this, because the mere difference of this is just really found in writing, because the other one is two-word form and the other one is just one word. So you use the two-word form to mean any additional. So this refers to quantities. Like for example, you say, I don't need any more help. Or other way of saying that is, I don't need any additional help. Okay, so any additional for any more. However, for the one word form, any more, this is an adverb of time, so we use any more to mean any longer. So for example, we say, I don't need help anymore. So maybe previously I needed your help, but now I don't need it anymore. Okay, so stop. Before I needed it, and now during this time, not anymore. Okay, so for this one, it refers to time, but for the two-word form, it refers to quantity. Okay, the next word pair is assure and ensure. So to assure is to promise or say with confidence. So it's more about saying. So more about saying than doing. Okay, so for example, I assure you that you'll be warm enough. So in this case, I'm just telling you that you'll be warm enough. I promise that you'll be warm enough, something like that. Okay, whereas to ensure is to do or have what is necessary for success. So this one is really more about doing or having, not just saying. So for example, these blankets ensure that you'll be warm enough. Okay, so doing or having what is necessary for success. So what we have there in the example is the blankets. So the blankets ensure that you'll be warm enough. So the success is you'll be warm enough. To sum it up, like assure is just more about saying than doing. Ensure is more about doing or having than just saying. All right? Okay, so next word pair, disinterested and uninterested. So these two, by the way, are both adjectives. So disinterested, so most people, they really just use this interchangeably, thinking that they just mean the same. But I was really wondering about the difference in their prefix. So the first one is disinterested. So they are two different words. Okay, disinterested is an adjective that means unbiased or impartial. For example, we appealed to the disinterested mediator to facilitate the negotiations. So the mediator there is disinterested, meaning unbiased. So mostly in our cases, like if we go to a court or something like that, we have cases in the court. Of course, we prefer someone like the judge or the jury. We prefer to have disinterested judge and jury. All right. Uninterested is an adjective that means not interested or indifferent. So this one, uninterested, is totally not interested. Like maybe he doesn't like or something, like he just doesn't have any interest in what you're saying or what you're doing. So uninterested. So for example, they seemed uninterested in our offer. So in this case, when for example you're offering something to someone, so they didn't like it or just they don't have any interest in that, so no. All right, so disinterested isn't biased, while uninterested is really not interested. Okay, for the next one here we have denote and connote. Okay, so denote is used for descriptions that stick to the facts. So stick to the facts. It's all about facts. We use denote if we're talking about facts or the exact meaning of the word. Like, for example, the word dog denotes a domesticated animal. It is a fact that dogs are domesticated animals. Okay? Connote, on the other hand, reveals additional meanings beyond what is clinical or objective. So it is used when expressing what a word implies or reminds us of. So it's more of a figurative sense. Okay, so like for example, the word dog connotes loyalty. Okay, so in this case, the word dog reminds us of a virtue, and that is loyalty. Okay, it's not really a fact, but it's something that that is implied by the word dog. So next one here, persuade and convince. So this one, persuade and convince, these are really commonly confused and commonly used just interchangeably, thinking that they are really just the same. When something or someone persuades us to act, so it's to act, it might be by using reason or logic, but it could also be by using force, lies, or guilt. Okay, for example, Rolfie persuaded me to do it, but I'm still not convinced it was right. So he persuaded me to do it, so I acted, and for example, maybe I did it, but I'm not convinced it was the correct thing to do. So to many, these are synonyms, but there are shades of difference, as I have said. Someone might be persuaded while at the same time not convinced. So the same as the example, I was persuaded to do it, to do something, but I was not convinced that it was the right thing to do. Okay, so you may be persuaded, but you may not be convinced, or you may persuade someone, but you may not convince that person, because convince refers to an enforced change of mind and heart that precedes action. Unforced, so it's willful change of mind and heart, and that precedes the action. Okay, so we consider the evidence, and if it is strong enough, it convinces us and changes our perspective. So once we are convinced, it's strong because we believe in it. We have a change of heart and mind. So that has already become a new mindset, something like that. So for example, this one, I took this example from the verse Romans 8:38. It says here, "For I am convinced, so I believe, that neither death nor life, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." So the speaker here is really convinced that it is true. So he believes in his heart, and he thinks in his mind, that's what's in his mind, that neither death nor life will be able to separate us from the love of God. Okay, so in formal writing, convince never takes an infinitive. So infinitive is to plus the base form of the verb. So convince never takes an infinitive, but persuade almost always does. You cannot be convinced to do something. So it's not convinced. It's you can be persuaded to do something, but you cannot be convinced to do something. You can only be convinced that something is blah blah blah, or you can be convinced of something, or be convinced that something. So that's why in our sentences we don't say I'm convinced to do this, I am convinced to. It's not like that. We don't use convinced to, but we say I'm convinced that blah blah blah, I am convinced of this blah blah blah, I am convinced of the fact that I am beautiful. Whereas in persuade is he persuaded me to. So it's the infinitive form. He persuaded me to do this. He persuaded someone to do that, although he wasn't really convinced that it was the right thing to do, just like the example. Okay, so persuade is you force someone to do something, even if it's against their will. Whereas convince is the person who has a willful change of mind and heart, and then that precedes his action. And now we'll go to the last one. So the last one is imitate and emulate. Okay, so these are also used interchangeably, but they are also totally different. So imitate means to follow a model or a pattern. So imitate has a negative connotation. See, I'm using the word connotation. So imitate has a negative connotation of mimicry. So mimicry, you mimic, you copy, you just really copy someone. So for example, Kent can imitate his father's booming voice. So Kent is just really trying to imitate or copy or mimic his father's voice. Whereas emulate, it means to attempt to equal or be the same as. So it's like to try to be equal, to try to be the same as or successful as someone you admire, or even surpass them. Okay, for example, they emulate Kanna's recent success. They emulate Kanna's recent success. So we don't say they try to emulate. So we don't try to emulate, because when we say we try to emulate, we are repeating ourselves. It's redundant, because emulate is already trying to be the same as or trying to be equal as. So we don't say we try to, but we say we emulate someone. Okay, so for imitate we can say we try. I tried to imitate her, but I really can't. But emulate, we don't say we try to emulate, we just say we emulate. I emulate her because she really inspires me. So imitate is to mimic or just to copy, exactly copy someone. Whereas to emulate is to try to be the same as or equal as or as successful as or even surpass someone. Okay, someone that you really admire. Alright, so that's it. So I hope you've learned something from there. And so now we will have a short quiz. So for this one, I'll flash the short quiz, and after that, when you see it, you pause and then you try to answer it, and after answering it, you play again, okay, to check your answers. Here's our quiz. Pause. So how well did you do it? Did you get a perfect score? Alright, so thank you all for watching. So if you've learned something from this, I hope that you share this with your friends, because our goal here is to spread learning. So we try to spread knowledge and learning to everyone and make learning accessible to everyone. Alright, so share this with your friends and comment down below if you've learned something from this or if you have some questions about this. Okay, so for those who are watching right now who haven't subscribed yet, so please click the button subscribe and also the notification bell so that you will be notified on my next videos. So thank you all for watching, and God bless you all. Bye bye.